Hey garden friends, today we're going to sow some perennials in early September to get a head start for next season. So I'm going to share with you just a couple I'm doing in containers, and then I'll share with you some that I'm putting out directly in the garden. Yeah, in my seed collecting video in August, I shared with you if something is hardy, a hardy perennial in your area, in your garden, and it's going to seed right now, that means you could sow the seeds right now. So that's a rule of thumb to go by, and then you'll know what may survive when you sow them early. Why do I say may? Well, a lot of these that I'm sowing today do come up or volunteer in my garden from seeds that fall, but we can have a really weird winter. And sometimes things get zapped by hard freezes after it's been a warm spell, and they're just not ready for that. But one thing about it, if you sow extensively, meaning you really put out the seeds, and it's easy to do when you collect your own seeds because you get a bazillion seeds, then the likelihood of that plant surviving is high. One thing I wanted you to note is seeds you collect yourself from plants that have been in your garden, perennials or even annuals, that you sow the following season or for the following season. Like annuals, you would wait till you did some late winter sowing or spring sowing, like the 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. Or the perennials that you could start now, the hardy perennials, those plants, the seeds from those plants, they're already acclimated to your area, that's grown through your conditions. So you would more likely have success with those plants than you would maybe with something you bought seeds like in a package. That's the same with like organic seeds. Sometimes the plants that you get from organic seeds are tougher because they've been grown in tougher conditions. So the DNA in them is, bred to be tougher because of the tough conditions those plants that those seeds came from were collected. So, or those seeds grew in. So it's all part of nature's wonderful thing. But today, I'm going to share with you what I'm sowing in containers. I am a zone 8B, but I have a short growing season. And our winters, last winter was pretty mild. The 2 winters before were crazy with snow and cold. Now, one thing about it, the snow on the ground does insulate the plants that are underneath the snow, rather than if you're out in a prairie where you get deep cold temperatures, but there's no snow cover to protect the plants. So there's a difference. So no, if you live in those kind of conditions and you collect seeds from your plants, then those plants will be acclimated for that kind of condition. And those seeds will sprout and grow plants, for you more successfully. So I think I emphasized that point enough. But today I'm going to show you how I sow in recycled containers. There's a lot of fancy equipment and things you can buy out there. But if you're just on a tight budget, which most of us are in this day and age, then no, you don't have to have anything fancy to get started. I was just reading a garden article. I think this garden writer has never really grown plants themselves. Just reading it, I'm thinking, that's not accurate. But saying that seed starting is just too expensive for people on a budget. I highly disagree. Like I showed you my Dollar Tree seed haul. These are Fairy Morris. They're usually relatively inexpensive. Now I do like buying from Renee's Garden Seeds. They give a lot of seeds in their packaging, but you may not want to grow that many. Share the cost with a friend. If you buy a seed packet of seeds, etc., you could split the cost, split the seeds. The same with Botanical Interests and Swallowtail Garden Seeds, Select Seeds. All of those seed providers may be a little bit more expensive than like the Fairy Morris seeds you can buy. I think I picked these up. I think these ones were Dollar Tree or Lowe's. Could be either one. That very inexpensive, but there's fewer seeds in there. So you might be paying the same thing, just not getting as many seeds. But if you're not going to grow that many, like this is Canterbury Bells, then you're good to go. Now this one, this container was a salad container. Organic Girl Super Nutrition Super Greens. And I poked holes in the bottom with a hot skewer. And then I poked some holes in the top that provides drainage. Now I only put about 1 inch of soil in here. You don't need a lot because I'm going to prick out the little seedlings and pot them up pretty soon after they come up. I don't need them to get very big in here. So with the Canterbury Bells, I think that you surface sow these. I will look it up, but I'm just going to pour the seeds in my hand. Let me pull this closer to me. Now last winter, I winter sowed some Canterbury Bells. They sprouted and then life happened and I didn't get them in the ground and so they perished. But I'm just going to sow all of these. This was an inexpensive packet of seeds. So I'm just going to go ahead and sow all of these. I have some more, another packet of seeds that I will direct sow out in the garden. Now some would say that you need to cold stratify these. If they don't germinate for me in the next 6 weeks, they will get cold stratified by the natural cold that happens. And they'll go ahead and come up in here. Our winters don't really get real hard until January. But by then, my greenhouse will be ready. And I can pluck these out in there and keep the little sprouts in there if I so desire. Now, being Canterbury Bells or a biennial or a short-lived perennial, then here, they're hardy. Even if I put them out in the garden, they would do okay because they're tough. And the ones I start out in the garden, they may not sprout right now, or germinate, I should say, but they will overwinter and then they'll come up in place, which sometimes can be easier than starting in containers. I just like to see what's happening and to stay on top of it. If you remember, I did some seed perennial sowing in July and I showed how I direct sowed it, and then I did a follow-up. And I did the follow-up because birds got in there and plucked out all the little seedlings. And it was my bad for not protecting them. It was just a step I forgot to take. So anyways, here is a cup. I'm just going to use it to press these seeds down into the soil. I haven't moistened this soil yet. It isn't necessary. What I do is I will set this in a container of water and let it absorb from the bottom. So there I sowed that, what was left in that package of the Canterbury Bells, there was a lot. So I'm guaranteed to get at least 4 or 5 coming up, and I'd be happy with that. For the seed packet cost, which I would think it was 4 for $1 or 3 for $1, yeah, I'll take my chances. Sowing heavily increases your chances. So there's that. I will set it in a container of water, let it absorb. It may take a day or two. Then I'm going to set it back here. I'm going to move some of these plants back here. I'm over summering my Christmas cactus out here, Thanksgiving cactus, so that it can get the maximum amount of sunlight. And then once the temperatures drop below, I would say 50, then I will take them back inside. But by then they will have had the short period of light and the cool that they need to bloom. But I'll do a whole video on that soon for you. But if you have Christmas cactus or Thanksgiving cactus in your home, put it outside, even right now, if the nights are staying above 50. And yeah, in the shade, let it get as much light as it can. And the shortening day length will help it to set buds, as well as the cooler temperatures. Okay, that being said. So this is going to be setting up here where it stays, it's bright, but it doesn't get direct sunlight. So first, I'll set this aside. Then I could do this one. Now this, I have it sitting on this lid of another container, a salad container, because it has very big drainage. And a lot of the dry soil is falling through. But on this one, I wanted to sow half white swan echinacea and half of, I think I went and got some seeds of my Sahara mix. Maybe I want to do my whole thing of Sahara mix. And then I have my other solid container. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that because I really want these. Now, this is the seed head, and I'm just going to scratch it, and all the seeds are falling into my container. I should say all of them, a lot of them. And this is another one that you can surface sow. You don't have to cover, and you're going to get hundreds of seeds out of this, if not more, if not thousands. Now I'll show you right here how I collected these. Super easy, and how I knew they were ripe. So some of these, this is Sahara Mix Rebecca, and it looks like some of them might be ready. See how that's just crumbling, not crumbling, well, the seeds are coming out very easily. It's very dried. Let's see if that one is ready as well. So I'm just going to save some of these and sow them. And others, as they get ripe, I'm going to sprinkle in the garden itself, direct sow them. But these ones I'm taking with me to sow in containers. Okay, now back to sowing. I'm going to use this container. I always use recycled containers. You can even poke holes in this and use this to sow in if you wanted something smaller. Now, if you didn't want to pot these up as early as I'm going to, or wanted to keep them like through the winter in a container, then make the soil deeper. Make it much deeper. Like fill it up to, I think this thing's 2.5 inches deep. Fill it up, and then it'll have plenty of room for the roots to grow through the winter in the container. You'd be surprised at how tough plants are. Okay, I firmed that down. Now I'm going to go get my pen, and I'm going to write on these containers what is in them, because if I don't, I will forget. So here's my 2 containers. This one is Canterbury bells. And I'll write on the label. Plus, I'll have this video to refer back to, but I'm going to put it on the side as well. Not exactly tidy writing, but this way, if one gets rinsed off, I have another one. And many times I'll make the little tags with like the cut up sour cream tub. Little hummingbird, I was hoping she'd come in the camera. And then stick it inside, and that way you don't worry about this marker coming off. Now this is the Sharpie Extreme. They didn't used to fade. They're made for outdoors, but mine did last year, so they must have changed the formula or something. So this was Sahara Mix Rebecca. All right. So like I said, these are going to be sat in water, a container of water to absorb, and we'll be good to go. Oh, I know, I have a tray. I'm going to go get my tray. So I ran and got the tray right here. Now this is one that I got off of Bootstrap Farmer. I bought these a couple of years ago. They have lasted me pretty good. I noticed that some of them are starting to crack where they've gotten brittle from being like some have been in the sun or whatever. So that happens with plastic, but these have lasted me pretty good. You can also use the black ones that nurseries have, and sometimes they're getting rid of. I had a bunch of those too, but I'm putting my containers in here with the seeds. Now you notice I just pressed the seeds into the soil. I didn't bury them. Many seeds that sow themselves, they do well just being surface sown. So you notice how it's floating. That's because the soil is so dry. But this will sit, soak up, and do great. It'll moisten it all the way through to the top. You'll start to notice some condensation inside the containers. That's perfect. That means the soil's good and moist. Now I will get questions like, how often do you water? Water is needed, and I will bottom water. I don't water from the top because that would dislodge the soil somewhat. Unless you had a mister, you could mist the top. and do well. Now, some seeds that want a little bit of coverage, like an 1/8 inch or something, they say slight coverage, you could actually use a little bit stronger spray bottle and then spray it down. And then that would push them down into the soil without having too much coverage. My greenhouse is coming along. Now, what if you wanted to do like in 4-inch pots, and that way that the plant would be ready to go? This is a white swan echinacea, and I'll go get myself a 4-inch pot. We'll sow the seeds, maybe even some of my Indian summer rudbeckias. I love Indian summer. It is such a pure yellow. That is just fantastic. So we'll do a couple of 4-inch pots, and yeah, the only downside with the 4-inch pots, I'll share with you in a minute. All right, move this out of the way, and those over there. Now, 4-inch pots. Make sure the soil's level. I just used regular potting soil. I didn't use a seed starting mix. I rarely use seed starting mixes because most of them are filled with peat moss. Peat moss for me doesn't do well because it holds too much moisture and causes issues. So I don't use it, or anything that has it in it, usually. So this is a potting soil mix. This is Edna's Best. There's a lot of wood fibers in this that helps keep it loosened up. Sometimes I'll add a little bit more perlite, but because my greenhouse is all in getting built, if you can hear the hammering out there, I don't have easy access to all my equipment. But regular potting soil will be just fine as long as you don't overwater. Now, with this potting soil, soon as you get germination, you want to start fertilizing with a very diluted fertilizer. I use the organic, the eco-organic. I have it down here. Eco-organic, and I dilute it to a 1/4 strength, and then I start fertilizing then. And then it gets the nutrition it needs. With all the wood fibers in here, I think the Edna's Best may be a little deficient in nitrogen. That will take care of it. So, white swan echinacea. Now, the downside with doing it in the 4-inch pots, and I wouldn't even call it downside, is you need to remove all but one or maybe two to have them grow the best. Now this one, these I would leave in the containers through the winter. Or if they germinate fast enough and get big enough fast enough, I can put them out in the garden in early November, and they should do fine. So I'm going to sow like 6 seeds in here. Now the extras that come up, if you get extras, if you get all 6 to germinate, you could cut off the extras, just cut them off at the soil line, or you can repot them. I usually repot them. I can't stand wasting anything, killing a plant. All right, these, I'm going to space them probably 1 inch apart. I think I could fit 9 in here. And it's just like with any of the other ones that I shared with you. The more you sow, the more chance of success. And yeah, I could do 9 in here safely. Now this, I bought this year. So they're going to stay viable as long as you keep them in a dry, cool place. Now I have a box. I keep it up in my office. I can put them in the basement. My basement stays dry. We have arid conditions. We don't have damp conditions even in my basement. So with the white swan, let me see if it says to cover. Seed depth 1/4 inch. So I can put some of the soil on it from this other container. About a 1/4 inch. It probably isn't a full 1/4 inch, but that's suggested, not absolute. And then when you push it down into the soil, then it goes deeper. So I'm pushing down with my fingers rather than a flat object. That's a glorious sound, by the way. These don't have a lid, so I could put them in something that does to keep the moisture in it, but you don't have to. It doesn't have to have a lid, especially this time of year. There's no reason to keep it warmer. We're having 80-degree days, and yeah, and the nights are mid-50s, so it's probably perfect for them. I'm just going to put it in this tray to soak up water. This is kind of an odd shape, so it's kind of hogging the room. I think I have room for 1 more in here. So that was my white swan. Oh, I got it right on it. I think I ordered more seeds. I wanted some shorter echinaceas white, and there's a powwow white. So, and it stays shorter. It stays about 2 feet rather than wanting to get 3, 4 feet. Okay, I love white swan though. So here is the Black-eyed Susan Indian Summer. Now in here, you know, I did the Sahara mix, which is the peachy colors and even one that looks like almost a burgundy shade. Now this one is the seeds are much smaller. So sowing these an inch apart, I'm gonna have to use my fingernail. Some people use a toothpick. I find that so fiddly and I can't get it to come off well off the toothpick in the soil, or I can't even see because the seeds are the same color as the soil of where it went. So I just pick it up. My fingernail is white so I can see where it drops off of my fingernail. Now, my fingernails grow like weeds, and it's because I take, they've done that since I take a product called MSM. It's a mineral, nutrient, amino acid, something like that. And I'll link to it in the box below. My hair and my nails have just been growing so strong and tough since I started taking that. And it's something most people are lacking because it's present in raw vegetables. And many of us don't eat enough raw vegetables to get what we need. And because the soil's so depleted, most of the vegetables don't contain enough anymore. All right, so Rebecca, I think that's surface sown. I will double check just to make sure my memory is not failing me. Press into surface, yes, so that's fine. I will use one of these and I just press it down into the surface of soil. And again, I will put it in here in the water to draw up. I don't think there's room in there the way this one's sitting so oddly. Let me see if I can get it to, no, I can't. Oh, I could push it over a little more and it works. The tab is in the way. Okay, there we go. Now it's in there. So this is, I'll say Indian Summer. On the black, it doesn't show up that well, but it does show up. Even worse writing, but I'll figure out what it is. So that is some of the perennials I'm sowing right now. And then sweet peas that act kind of like a perennial, short-lived perennial in my garden. I will go put these out directly in the garden. I have tons of them. It's another white swan. I have seen all these packages, and they need to be planted because some of them are getting quite old. Sea holly. This is one that you can sow now and get plenty. Now, hollyhocks really are considered a biennial. Many of mine act like perennials, and this one is apricot peach parfait, which I showed you. I'll show you the little video clip of the one I have going right now. Well, it's actually been a couple of weeks since I started this video, and what I decided was I wanted to start the seed sowing and then share with you the results in a couple of weeks, see what germinated and what not. Now, I'm going to share with you first a little clip of my Canterbury bells. They're just starting to germinate. They're slower, they have been slower than the Sahara mix, Rudbeckia, and the I went ahead and made a tag here for the Indian Summer so I could see it because I had a hard time reading the side of the container because it's black with a black pen, of course. And then this one is the white swan echinacea. So I'll show you those clips, as I said, and how they're germinating just within 2 weeks. So the Rudbeckia, the Sahara mix, within a week, they were starting to show. Forgive the sound in the background. A neighbor's doing some construction. So also I wanted to share with you sowing directly in the garden. We're going to go sow some of the sweet peas out there. I got a little mountain chickadee at my bird feeder. So I'm also going to share with you an area that I'm going to prepare to direct sow, and we'll see what we get there. It's really dry right now in that area. It's hard to get a hose to it. So sowing the seeds now letting them sit there until we start getting wet weather. It is actually, you can see I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. We went from 80s, upper 80s and warm 60-degree nights to 40s, upper 40s at night, and today we will barely be 65 degrees, and it's very, very cool. The winds have torn up my canopy. You can see, maybe right there, you can see it hanging down, a piece of the canopy. Yeah, this has got to go. We are hoping to build a pergola out here over the deck because in the summer this is really hot and we like to spend a lot of time out here. But in the interim, we had this inexpensive pop-up tent that has worked very well. This is the second one we've purchased from Costco. It's $159. I think it's 12 by 12 or 13 by 13. Worked very well. We loved it. But yeah, it's not meant to be put up for the entire time. It's like something you put up at events or out camping once in a while. So the sun really has done a number on it. But for the usage we've gotten out of it, $150 is worth it. But anyways, that's why I think everything's looking tattered. But we had a thunder and lightning storm last week. Fires started, so that's taken up a lot of our time with, helping others to get moved or be evacuated. And then, yeah, it's all calmed down. They've just today lifted all the evacuation notices, and it looks like everything's under control. So it's just been a very hairy week. We are going to go, and we're going to sow the sweet peas, direct sow for now. Some of these are seeds from 2021, so I do not know how well they will germinate. I'm not going to soak them. Many times people will recommend soaking them. The winter weather will soak them just fine. The problem I have is gophers love to eat them. They will germinate. Many of them will overwinter, depending on the winter, and then I'll get an early bloom, and then I will plant more, probably April, and then I can have blooms from that. So also, I don't know, Coreopsis is a hardy perennial for me, annual for many people, but this one, Incredible Swirl, this is one I want to start. But I thought of starting them in containers right now, and I could. But I thought, why, when they start so easily in the spring? I'll have my greenhouse to do it in, and then I'm not having to nurture them through the winter. These, and some of these I will direct sow out in the garden, but the ones that I want to start in containers, I'm going to wait. So if you're not wanting to get a start now with many of these hardy, they're perennial for some people, they might be annuals for some. But if you don't want to start now in containers and have to nurture them through the winter, you don't have to. You can wait until spring, and then you're all excited to do it then anyways. I just did it to show you how you could, and some of these plants would be ones that you need an earlier start to get a bloom the first year, or the best bloom. So that's what all this is about. It's not that you have to start them now. I just wanted to make that clear in case I was confusing people. And we will get going out in the garden. Sun's coming out. Ooh, it's going to warm up. As soon as that sun hits, it gets really warm. The clouds are what make it so cold. And yeah, sweet peas in the garden. And then there's an area by the road side that I had cleared some plants out of that were looking a little rangy. And I will direct sow some seeds there of plants I want. And I will heavily sow because that way you get a better chance. Some of the seeds are getting older. I need to use them up anyway, so I'm just going to fling them out there and see what happens. So let's get rolling on that piece. This is the base of my Crown Princess Margaretta Rose and my Warsaw Nike Clematis. And so I want to put, let me turn my screen around so I can see if I'm in it. I want to put some sweet peas down here. Now this is a bunch of chicken debris I had plopped down here, chicken compost, and there's some rose cuttings. I'll haul those out. And I thought I would like some sweet peas to grow up here. You can grow up the Crown Princess Margaretta Rose and just be pretty along there. Add scent in here. Yep, I'm in there. Okay, so there's a few of these that are really old. So these are from 2021, 4 years old. This one is Heirloom Sweet Peas Scented Pastel Sunset. So it looks like it has pink and cream and lavender in it. That might be a really pretty one because this is an apricot colored rose. Or there's Royal Blend, which has a bunch of bright colors. And then also here's one from American Seed. This one is more recent, I do believe, 2023. Anyway, so many, or this beautiful blue with the Warsaw Nike, that might be really pretty as well. So I need to pick. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the Heirloom Sweet Peas Scented Sunset, Pastel Sunset. Now, sweet peas, some people soak them ahead of time. I'm going to plant every single one of these, even though several in here, because they are older. Some of them may have become not viable, but you'd be surprised at how well many seeds age if you store them properly, which they should have been. Okay. Now, sweet peas, 1/2 inch is more than enough to plant them the depth. So I'm just going to make a line here with my hodag, one of my favorite tools. And I'm just going to sow them very, very thickly and hope for the best. Now, I will get fresh sweet pea seeds for next season that I plant out maybe in late May, early June, direct sow. Now, here's a strawberry plant I don't need in here, so I'm going to pull it out. I let strawberries go a lot as ground cover and let them just fill in as needed. And yeah, so I just pull them out if they're in areas that I don't want them any longer. So I got some weeds here. So that, my friends, is the sweet peas. Now this was very moist. It's going to be very cool the next couple of days. And the next time I turn the irrigation on for here, that will get moistened plenty for them to germinate now, if they so desire, or it may take until spring. They may wait. So yeah. Now, over winter, sweet peas, if they haven't germinated, can rot in the ground. So we're going to have a few more weeks of warm weather. So I assume if they're viable that they are going to go ahead and germinate. And then I'll have a head start for next spring, because once cold weather hits, they just go dormant. And if it's a mild winter, they'll go ahead and bloom. If it's a super rough winter, I will lose them. But like I said, they were old seeds, so they needed to be sown. And no great loss there. And so the seeds, let me see, these were $2.49. So they might have gone up this year, but for $3, the amount of joy I've had from the royal wedding, that I'll take you up there to see in a minute, that climbing up one arbor with the roses, it has just provided me with so much joy through the summer. Yeah, I am good with that, spending $3 for the joy that it brought me. So you see the white flowers there, that's the royal wedding sweet pea. And as I walk by, those flowers are right at my nose level, which has just been tremendous as far as providing scent as I walk through this arbor with these roses on here. So that is what I'm going to do along other arbors. I'll take you up to another one. So this is the arbor with my new dawn, which I have spoke to you about in some of my garden videos. It just has not produced blooms this year. I'm going to give it one more year here. I am going to plant another rose up there where I took out the daisies. So that would be 2 on this arbor. That red rose is my test d'Aubervilles from that barrel. Both my test roses are going to get moved to the arbor down going into my secret cottage garden. So that's the plan for that. Anyways, I was going to plant some of these sweet peas, some more trimmings that I need to take to the burn pile. Anyways, right down here, I do have, got to be careful because I have a clematis there. I have a Princess Kate clematis. It looks like some of it's dried up. Okay, they're still green on the end. I lost my Pearl du Jour. I think it just died back all of a sudden, and I don't know what happened. I had 2 others that did that in prior years, so maybe there's some fungus that gets them. But my Warsaw Nike, I have had there for probably 10 years, so it's just a mystery. So a log I was using for edging that has just deteriorated severely. Now, I have had gopher activity here. So there is a container right here that's got a strawberry coming up in it. that I had put in the ground and planted something else in, and it didn't survive. It was a Chilean, what was that, honeysuckle or jasmine, but it didn't make it. It was supposed to be hard to hear. It didn't fly. So this container, there's a pot down in here that you can't see. It's a 1-gallon pot sunk into the soil, and that is what I will put the sweet pea seeds in. I'm gonna get this strawberry pulled out of here, wherever it's coming from. And that way I don't have to worry about the gophers eating the sweet peas. So the other one, this is the ones I planted down there, the sweet pea scented pastel sunset. Now these are all pink in here, the flowers, the roses so far. So I think I'm going to go with this blue. I don't even know what the blue name is. Lady Giselle Hamilton. Okay, so we'll see. It might have been a mix of purple lavender blues. So I'm going to just do the same. Sow all the seeds in here. This is also an older seed packet from 2021, I do believe. And so it's good to get them all sown. So I just spread them in there, and I'm just making sure they have at least a 1/2 inch coverage. And we'll let the rains rain them in. I've got some foxgloves coming up here that I don't want right in the front. Okay, there's another batch of sweet peas, and these others I will do the same with throughout the garden somewhere. Maybe even put some down by on the arbor where I'm going to put the test roses. Now when I transplant the test roses, I will take you along. I plan on it. So down in here, this is part of the entrance garden, is the area that I want to sow some seeds. I'm thinking some of the steel blue, this is the sea holly in here, and this is white swan echinacea. Now, first, I need to remove this. This is a coneflower, and it's looking really sad, like it's got some kind of fungus, disease, or bug. I just want to be rid of that. I'm just going to pull it up by the roots, and then I will feed it. I'll put it in the chicken pen, and they'll compost it down for me. Nothing lives through their gullet, so or their gut. So I don't worry about spreading the disease once I compost their chicken manure. I've done it for years, and I've not really had any issues. So I know some people will say, oh, no, you want to burn that or whatever. It could be mites, it could be anything, and they'll just be gone after the chickens eat them. So here's hopefully this iris is not in the way. But back here, there are some weeds, and I will dig those up. It's oxalis. It's not that big of a deal. It comes back, I dig it up, and there is no eradicating it really. The seeds spread from the birds, from neighbors, etc. I have a sprinkler right here, so if I wanted to or needed to when I irrigate, then this will get moistened, so it'll help them to germinate. Now the sea holly, they like cold stratification, so they may not germinate until next spring after being in the ground during the winter. But it should all work out. Now, I have said that the sea holly, the gophers love it, but they don't eat it right away, meaning they wait till it gets big and pretty, then they eat it. So I could transplant it, dig them up, transplant them before it gets the big taproot, which they do get a big taproot, and then before the gophers eat them, and then I can put them in cages or whatever. I'm not going to bother putting the cage in the soil right now, and I'm just getting up the worst of these weeds. I can come back and do the rest of them over there. So I've got it loosened up, fairly flattened, fairly weed-free, and gorgeous. You can tell I'm very lackadaisical about it. I don't do anything with perfection, precision, etc. Some people would say, oh, you'd get better results if you did this and that, and we're more, picky about things. It's like, I just want to enjoy being out in the garden. So there's a lot of seeds in here, but it is an older packet of seeds. So again, I'm just going to sprinkle it generously, not generally, generously. And yeah. And then I'm going to go with some white swan echinacea. Yep, I'm going to just sprinkle it in there. And when the seedlings come up, I know what they look like. Over time, you develop a sense of what the seedlings look like, so you can differentiate between the sea holly and the echinacea. Again, echinacea is another one the gophers love, so I'm taking a chance, but I live dangerously. Yeah, I have some white echinaceas in the back. You notice I'm just tamping the soil down. I'm not really burying the seeds. I'm tamping it down. When the rains come and all that fun stuff, it will push the seeds down into the soil more. And that's why you can sow your poppies and stuff in the winter, because the snow, the rain, all of that pushes those things down into the soil just fine. So that is how the lazy way I sow, direct sow seeds in the garden here in September. Now it is September 9th. So it's been nice. We will have some more nice days to carry on. Some warmth, but it's going to be generally cooling off pretty quick. Now, we've also had snow the first week of October, so anything can happen. And we've also not had snow until the end of November, so you never know. It's always a gamble here in the mountains. So right down here in the entrance garden is where I sowed those seeds, so you have a little bit of perspective. I don't know, can you see behind me is the bench where I sit. I'll turn the camera a little bit for you. Yeah, you can see the bench back there. And here's the debris I put down. So over here, I've taken out the coneflower that I had growing here because it was looking the same as that one. So whatever it is spreading. So I have another coneflower right there. They were volunteers, so no great loss. I just let them come up because I didn't have anything in particular I wanted to put there. And the pollinators love them. But if it was time to pull it out, no great loss. Yep, can you see my Mystic Spire salvia over there? That does beautiful for me. I have tried like the Rockin' the Blue Suede, the Proven Winner selections that are supposed to be, I don't know better, but stay more compact and bushier than the Mystic Spires. But they won't come back for me, act as a perennial, where the Mystic Spires do. And they come back so late for me, they really don't have a chance to get, I don't know, whatever it is that people think that the others are better for. This has done beautiful for me, comes back every year. I can take cuttings from it. I like the attribute that it is perennial for me and I don't have to buy it again. That just works. And this time of year is when it's really doing great, when a lot of other things are fading. I want to show you something that's just thrilling me right now. Aside from where we were, but look at this canna. Whoops. Look at this canna. Isn't this gorgeous? These are the striped ones, and I got this. A friend dug it up for me, divided hers, and it's blooming. Isn't that the most gorgeous thing? It's still in the pot, just sitting here on the ground, and it has a drip to it, but that is just a magnificent color. And I did not anticipate getting a bloom from it. So that is going to go in my greenhouse to overwinter. I don't know that it will overwinter out here, but you never know. Don't you love that Zinfandel hydrangea behind me? And can you see my hibiscus? That is a hardy hibiscus. My husband, I think it's Disco Bell something. My husband bought that for me 25 years ago. It's deciduous. It comes back every year. I didn't think it would even live up here, but it always blooms in September. So it's like the last hurrah of my garden, but I absolutely love it. And it's in amongst all the other flowers. You don't even notice it coming up, and then all of a sudden it's blooming. And yeah, just giving you great delight. And it has tons more buds on it right there. Love, love, love. Okay, that, my friends, is some of the seeds I'm starting this time of year in the fall, September. There's a whole list of seeds you could start right now if they're hardy in your zone and your conditions. But I didn't get to list them here. So instead of you listening to a whole list of flowers that you could sow this time of year. Maybe I'll do another video that shows you each of the flowers. We'll see what I get to. It's a busy time of year. I'm getting my studio ready for my painting sessions, etc. So this is where I'm transitioning into more indoor activities. So it all depends upon the weather that we have. But yeah, so I hope to see you in my next video. I hope you enjoyed watching me sow some seeds in the garden and in containers and how that's working for me. And pretty soon, I don't have an update on the greenhouse because my husband hasn't been working on it this past week. He's again been working on some engineering that needed to be done. It makes money, whereas him building the greenhouse isn't making us money. So he's supposed to get back to it. Probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, it will be finished. We will all look forward to that, and I will be in there a lot this winter. And if you didn't already know, we are going to make these available as kits that can be shipped to your home with complete instructions on how you can assemble it. He's making them as simple as possible for most people to be able to put together. So anyways, I will see you in my next video.